Our next guest was once called the first player agent superstar. He is the most written and read about agent in the history of Canadian sport. His actions eventually led to the ousting, conviction, and incarceration of Canadian hockey czar Alan Eagleson on fraud and racketeering charges. That changed the course of professional hockey as we know it. Today, Ritch Winter of Winter Sports is going to talk about what he's up to now, and he'll share with us the ultimate definition of success in sports and in life. And Ritch, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Randy.
I'm honored to call you a friend. We happen to be fairly close, so it's great to have you here. Ritch, tell us briefly about the Alan Eagleson story. It's kind of old news these days, but some of these young hockey players that are doing so well, they are living a different life because of what happened with Alan Eagleson.
Oh, well, Alan had his hands in everything. He was partners with the owners. He really had complete control of the sport, including international hockey at one stage. And it was just really a group of American players more than anything else who enrolled the help of people like myself to stand up, and they decided there was about time for change. And so with their support, it's hard to imagine in this day of the multi-million-dollar athlete that we had 250 players at their own expense fly down to Florida and challenge their union leader, because hockey players aren't traditionally, they're pretty team-oriented. They're not really ones to challenge authority. And you think about that now and you think, wow. And, the players today owe those guys a debt of gratitude. They put a lot on the line for them.
Now, this program, Biz One-on-One, we talk to entrepreneurs, business owners, people at all different stages of the business life cycle. Are you a lawyer, a businessman, a hockey agent? What are you?
I would think at the end of the day, I'm a relationship expert. I think at the end of the day, life and business comes down to relationships, and it's no different whether you're visiting with the chief of a First Nations band which I was doing earlier today, or dealing with the CEO of a major company, or dealing with an athlete. It's the relationship they have. People want to do business with people they enjoy spending time with. So it's investing in those relationships that ultimately are, I think, the best investments one will make in life.
And in the hockey world, you've become one of the most, I don't know whether you're the most successful, but you're probably the most famous agent, mainly in your early days because of your confrontational approach. And didn't you actually punch, or he punched you, Glenn Sather, one of the most iconic general managers?
Yeah, I guess it's funny when you think about it in life. At one point, Glenn did punch me. I deserved it, actually, because I kind of challenged him in front of his coaches, and that I was young and inexperienced, and that wasn't appropriate. I mean, he didn't have the right to punch me, but had the right to be very upset. And so Glenn is probably certainly is the only general manager that's ever punched me, who I've also told how much I love him, because I've learned over time that Glenn's a very loyal guy. He's, reached the end of his career. We've had a lot of time to talk about the things that have come to pass, and I've really come to realize. I mean, that's an example of the relationship started a little rough, but it's worked out to be.
I mean, you were confrontational with him representing your players, right? And that was the same story with Alan Eagleson. I remember you being completely. You were whacked out of how upset you were about Alan Eagleson. And you came to me when we were both in our 20s, and I was starting my career, and you were doing you were going to be a hockey agent, and you're saying, I'm going to take down this Alan Eagleson guy. And I'm thinking, Ritch, this isn't how you're going to get in the door.
Well, I mean, it grew out of a small town background where you stood up to people who do the wrong thing, but I don't know. I find it astonishing. I did a couple of shows a few years ago in Toronto, and the producer wanted me to autograph a whole bunch of stuff. And I guess I was lucky not to realize how influential he really was, because Alan Eagleson out in Edmonton, or a little town I grew up outside of Calgary, he was a known commodity a little bit because he'd organized international hockey. But in Toronto, the guy was... he was the man.
So you've branched out from hockey, and I remember as a hockey agent and a lawyer, you were dabbling in other business ventures through your 20s and 30s. What do you, obviously you've been very successful as an agent. What are you up to outside of the hockey world, and what advice can you give to people business owners that maybe are interested in doing something else? Because that's what you're doing.
Well, I think I study a lot of behavioral science, and I think it's really interesting. There's a thing in your brain called the reticular activating system, and what it does is filter what you pay attention to. And I've learned over in life that if you load it with something, if you find a goal that you're passionate about, you'd be surprised how things unfold, because there's so many opportunities that pass us by because we weren't convinced that we could achieve that goal. And you talk to people like Mark Cuban and some others. Once you believe in something, you become passionate of something, and it's the belief. Once you believe it, you'll start noticing opportunities. Like, I remember I wanted to be a hockey agent when I was 12. That was like the greatest blessing in my life, because when a movie came to town, I thought, well, maybe I should join that because it's an entertainment, it might be close to sports, and it led to lots of things. Me being a stuntman at one point, me going to Los Angeles, me getting a job with a sports agency. But I would never have done that. So I think the best advice is really get a goal and focus on it.
What are you up to these days, Rich? Like, what have you branched out into? What's the most interesting sort of business thing that you're working on?
Well, I'm working on, right now, one of the biggest, most pressing problems facing the country right now. 2,000 of the arenas, 2,000 to 3,000 arenas in the country are currently operating past their useful life expectancy. So
an infrastructure issue.
If we don't solve this, we will become the hockey's equivalent of England in soccer. We will not have the players. Right now, we're down to 15% of boys between the age of 8 and 16 playing hockey. And I'm concerned about it because what happened in the old days was that people came to Canada, came to a community, and we bonded together by playing hockey. And our parents sat together in the stands. And we have a very migrant community, lots of immigrants coming here, lots of children who want to play and be Canadian. They want to be with their friends, and they can't afford to play our national pastime. And if we can't fix that, the chances of us fixing the kind of problems they're seeing manifest themselves in America, we're in trouble. And so we need a solution. And without getting into the details, that's one of my focuses right now.
Ritch Winter from a small community, an old buddy. Thanks for coming on the show, Rich.
Hey, Randy.
Appreciate it.